The empty throne's shadow, the great hall of the Zareth Empire, was a place of silence and fear. Massive pillars of black stone rose high into the air, each carved with strange alien symbols that seemed to move if one looked too long. The light from the crystal chandeliers above was cold and sharp, making the air itself feel heavy. At the far end of the hall stood the crystal throne, and on it sat the alien queen. Her name was Queen Zytheria, ruler of the Zareth Empire, conqueror of 7 star systems. She was tall, her skin shimmering like liquid silver, her eyes burning gold. Her wings, long, thin, and made of translucent crystal, rested behind her, catching the light in 1,000 sharp reflections. She did not smile. She did not frown. She simply watched. To her right was an empty seat. It had been empty for years. Everyone knew why. They called it the seat of death. Once, long ago, it had belonged to the queen's consort, who betrayed her and paid with his life. Since then, anyone who dared to sit there without permission never left the hall alive. No one wanted to be the next example. The hall was full that day. Alien nobles with jeweled robes, armored guards from a dozen species, and diplomats from across the galaxy. But no one even looked at the empty seat. Their eyes stayed on the floor. Then the heavy doors opened. A human entered. His name was Elias Kane. He was dressed in dark guard armor, a simple sidearm at his belt. He walked with calm, steady steps, his eyes scanning the room without fear. Most in the hall had seen humans before, fragile-looking creatures compared to Zareth warriors. But this one moved differently. He had been assigned as security for Earth's ambassador, who stood at the far end of the hall. Elias should have stayed at the wall like the other guards. But instead, he walked straight toward the throne. The alien stared. Whispers spread quickly. What is he doing? Does he not know the seat? He will die. Elias reached the dais. The queen's gaze fell on him. Her golden eyes glowed faintly, like molten metal. Still, he did not stop. He stepped up, turned toward the empty seat, and sat down. Gasps echoed through the hall. One alien noble dropped his drink. A guard's hand went to his weapon. The queen's wings shifted, sharp light running down their edges. For a long moment, there was no sound. Only the slow heartbeat of tension in the air. Then the queen spoke. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the hall like a blade scraping stone. Do you know what you have done, human? Elias met her eyes. Yes. Her head tilted slightly, curious. You sit where none have dared in 20 cycles. It was empty, Elias said simply. And I do not believe in leaving things empty when they have a purpose. The queen's lips curved, not into a warm smile, but into something sharper, something dangerous. The kind of smile a predator gives when prey does something unexpected. Do you know the story of this seat? She asked. I know enough, Elias replied. Enough to know that it's still just a seat. And that sitting here lets me see the room better. Good for my job. The nobles around them murmured in disbelief. To speak so casually to the queen was unheard of. But Elias sat straight, calm, as if he were back on his homeworld guarding some dull meeting room. The queen studied him for a long time, her eyes searching for fear. She found none. You are bold, she said, or foolish. Maybe both, he replied. The queen leaned closer, her golden eyes locking onto his. If you remain here, human, you will be part of my game. And in my game, pieces are broken. Elias did not blink. Then I'll just have to last longer than the others. Something passed between them then. A silent challenge, a recognition of will. The queen leaned back in her throne, her wings folding slightly. The hall remained tense. Every alien present expected the queen to order his execution. But instead, she turned her gaze to the gathered nobles. "Let him sit," she said. Gasps again. The sound of disbelief rippled through the room. But beneath the noise, one thing was certain. In the shadows of the empty throne, something had changed. A dangerous smile. The hall still buzzed with whispers long after the Queen's words. Let him sit. It was a command that no one could understand. For years, that seat had been a warning, a silent threat to anyone who thought of standing too close to her. Now, a human sat there as if it were nothing. The Queen's gaze stayed on Elias. Her golden eyes were steady, unblinking. Then, slowly, her lips curved again, that same thin, dangerous smile. The kind of smile that made the air feel colder around them. Alien nobles leaned toward each other, whispering in disbelief. Some were afraid. Others were angry. A few looked curious, wondering if this human had just made the biggest mistake of his short life. "You speak without fear." "The Queen said at last." Elias shrugged. "I speak the truth." Her eyes narrowed, but the smile stayed. "Truth is rare in my court. Most offer flattery, hoping to keep their heads." "Then maybe they need better heads," Elias replied. Several nobles gasped at his tone. One of the Queen's guards stepped forward, hand on his weapon. But she raised one delicate hand, and the guard froze in place. "You do not bow," she said, tilting her head slightly. "I stand when I need to. I sit when I choose to. I don't bow unless it's earned." Silence filled the room again. Even the hum of the hall's glowing light crystals seemed quieter. The Queen leaned forward. Her voice dropped lower, softer, yet sharper than any blade. "Human, I could end your life before you take another breath. Why do you think you are still alive?" Elias's eyes stayed locked on hers. "Because you're curious." For the first time, the Queen let out a faint laugh. Not a warm laugh, but something cool and edged, like a glass breaking in slow motion. Perhaps. She rose from her throne, her crystal wings catching the light, scattering it into shards that danced over the walls. She moved toward him, each step graceful but heavy with power. Standing close now, she was taller than him by almost a head. The air around her carried a faint metallic scent, and something else. A subtle, dangerous sweetness, like a flower that could kill. "You will stay by my side today," she said. "You will see my court, my enemies, and my games. You will learn why no one sits here." "I look forward to it," Elias replied. The Queen turned to her court. "Prepare the feast." At her command, the hall came alive with movement. Servants rushed forward with long tables, dishes of strange alien food, and crystal jugs filled with glowing drinks. And nobles returned to their seats, though many kept glancing toward the human who sat beside their queen, as if he were some rare, dangerous creature. Elias noticed something. Every drink served to him was handled by a different servant. The food was always placed slightly farther from him than from anyone else. The message was clear. This was not hospitality. It was a test. When the main drink arrived, a tall crystal cup filled with deep blue liquid, Elias caught a faint shimmer at the surface. A smell, almost metallic, reached his nose. Poison. He didn't touch it. Instead, he looked up, found the eyes of the servant, and then calmly slid the drink toward one of the Queen's guards. "Your drink," Elias said casually. The guard hesitated, glancing at the Queen. She gave no signal. Slowly, the guard lifted the cup and drank. A few moments later, the guard's eyes widened. He coughed once, twice, and then collapsed to the floor. The hall erupted in shouts. The Queen raised her hand, and silence fell again. She looked down at the fallen guard, then back at Elias. "You saw it," she said. "Yes. And yet you gave it away." "I thought he might be thirsty." The Queen's dangerous smile returned, sharper than before. "Interesting." Elias sat back as calm as ever, though he could feel the weight of every stare in the room pressing down on him. This was more than a test of fear. It was a test of instincts. And he had just passed the first one. But in the shadows beyond the great pillars, something moved. A pair of red eyes watched from the darkness, studying him. Whoever they belonged. They did not look friendly. Cliffhanger for part 3. The Queen leans toward Elias and whispers, "Enjoy the meal, human. Before the day ends, someone will try to kill you again." The first test the Queen's words echoed in Elias's mind. Before the day ends, someone will try to kill you again. He didn't take it as a threat. It sounded more like a promise. The feast continued, but the mood was strange. Music played from silver instruments that seemed to float in the air, but the sound felt hollow. Nobles forced polite laughter, but their eyes kept darting toward the human who had taken the seat of death. Elias ate little. He was trained to never let his guard down, especially in unfamiliar territory. Every movement in the room was a signal. The twitch of a guard's hand, the sudden shift of a servant's steps, the flicker of an alien's. Eyes toward the shadows. Across the table, Queen Zytheria watched him with the same curiosity one might have for a weapon they weren't sure how to use yet. "Do you enjoy our food?" she asked. "It's different," Elias said. "But I'm more interested in the company." Her smile returned, sharp as ever. "Careful, human. My company is rarely safe." Elias didn't reply. His focus was elsewhere. He had noticed something odd. A figure in deep green robes moving silently along the edge of the hall. They weren't serving food or part of the court. They didn't speak to anyone, and they were getting closer. Elias shifted slightly in his chair, one hand resting casually near his sidearm. His eyes tracked the figure without turning his head. He didn't want to alert them. The figure stopped behind a large pillar. A moment later, a faint glint caught his eye. Metal. A small, needle-like weapon. Elias didn't wait. He rose from his seat, pretending to stretch, and stepped away from the table. The moment he moved, the figure sprang forward, the needle aimed for the side of his neck. But Elias was faster. He grabbed the attacker's wrist, twisting hard until the weapon clattered to the floor. The figure hissed, a reptilian alien with scaled skin and black, forked eyes. It tried to pull away, but Elias swept its legs and slammed it against the pillar. Gasps filled the hall. Guards rushed forward, weapons ready, but Elias already had the situation under control. The Queen stood, her wings spreading slightly. "Alive!" she ordered. The guards seized the attacker, forcing them to their knees. The alien's forked tongue flicked nervously as the Queen stepped closer. "Who sent you?" she asked. The alien stayed silent. The Queen glanced at Elias. "Human, would you care to try?" Elias crouched in front of the attacker. His voice was calm, almost casual. "You had one chance. You wasted it. The Queen will kill you quickly." "Me? I'm not in such a hurry." The alien's eyes flickered. A moment later, it spat out the name of a noble house, one of the Queen's rivals. The Queen's smile widened. "Interesting." She turned to her guards. "Remove him. I will deal with House Virik soon." The attacker was dragged away, hissing all the while. The Queen returned to her throne, her golden eyes still on Elias. "You passed the first test," she said. Elias raised an eyebrow. "First?" "Oh, there will be more," she replied. "You have stepped into my world, human. Every day here is a game of survival. You are not the first to sit beside me, but perhaps you will be the first to remain." Her tone made it sound less like a compliment and more like a challenge. Elias sat back down, meeting her gaze. "Then I'll play." The Queen laughed softly, a sound that made several nobles shift uncomfortably. "Good, because my enemies will come for you now, thinking you are my weakness." Let them try. But Elias noticed something in her voice. This wasn't just about curiosity anymore. This was strategy. She wanted him here for a reason, and he wasn't sure if he'd like it when he found out what it was. Somewhere deep in the palace, the bells began to ring, a sound that meant an unannounced visitor had arrived. The queen's smile sharpened. Perfect timing, she murmured. Your second test approaches. The warlord's challenge, the massive throne room doors, burst open with a deep metallic crash. The sound echoed across the hall, cutting through the murmurs of the nobles and silencing the music instantly. A figure stepped inside, tall, broad, and wrapped in thick black armor scratched from countless battles. His skin was dark red, like dried blood, and his eyes burned a dull orange. Each step made the floor tremble. Whispers spread quickly. It's General Kravak, the warlord of the outer clans. He shouldn't even be here. The queen did not rise. She sat calmly on her crystal throne, wings folded, eyes glowing faintly. Kravak, she said, her voice soft but carrying across the hall. You arrive without an invitation. I do not need one, Kravak growled, his deep voice like grinding stone. Your council has grown weak. You sit in safety while your enemies gather fleets. And now, he pointed a clawed finger toward Elias, you keep a human pet at your side? This is your new defense? The court erupted in murmurs. Son? Nobles smirked, eager to see the human humiliated. Elias didn't move. He simply looked at Kravak, calm and unreadable. The queen's lips curved slightly. This is Elias Kane. He is no pet. Kravak laughed, a sound like a hammer striking metal. Then let him prove it. If he can survive me, I will kneel to your rule. If not, I will take his head. And perhaps your throne. The hall froze. No one dared speak. The queen tilted her head, studying Elias. Do you accept human? Elias stood slowly. I do. Gasps spread through the room. Kravak grinned, showing sharp, jagged teeth. Then come little human. The guards cleared. The center of the hall. The nobles leaned forward in their seats, eager for blood. The queen watched silently. Her golden eyes locked on the two figures now facing each other. Kravak drew a long, curved blade that hummed with energy. One strike will end you, he said. Elias didn't reach for his gun. Instead, he stepped forward with empty hands. Then you'd better make it count. The warlord charged, his armored boots shaking the floor. The blade swung in a deadly arc, but Elias moved at the last second, stepping to the side. The weapon cut through the air, missing by inches. Kravak turned, snarling. Fast, but not enough. The second swing came faster. Elias ducked, using the warlord's momentum to grab his arm and twist hard. The blade slipped from Kravak's. Grasp, clattering to the floor. Gasps echoed again. Kravak roared, swinging a heavy fist toward Elias's head. Elias leaned back, the punch missing by a hair. He stepped in close, delivering a hard strike to the warlord's ribs. Kravak staggered, but did not fall. He grabbed Elias by the throat, lifting him off the ground. The court leaned forward. It looked like the end, but Elias's hand shot up, gripping the warlord's wrist. His other hand jabbed sharply into a gap in Kravak's armor, a pressure point. The warlord's grip loosened just enough for Elias to drop to the floor. Elias grabbed the fallen blade, spinning it in his hand before pressing it to Kravak's throat. Silence filled the hall. The queen finally rose, her crystal wings shimmering. In the cold light, enough, she said. Elias lowered the blade, but didn't step away. Kravak's breathing was heavy, his eyes burning with humiliation. You fight well. For a human, Kravak said, his voice quieter now. The queen stepped closer. Do you yield? Kravak's jaw clenched, but he dropped to one knee. I yield. The court erupted in astonished whispers. The queen turned to Elias, her gaze sharp. You have earned your place beside me today, human. But this was only one battle. Others will come. Elias gave a small nod. And I'll be ready. In the shadows near the far pillars, the same pair of red eyes from before watched him again. This time, they lingered longer, as if waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Blood in the throne room, Elias sat back down beside the queen, still breathing, evenly despite the fight. The court buzzed with shock. A human had stood against Kravak and lived. Some nobles looked impressed. Others looked angry. As Elias rested his hands on the arms of his seat of death, he felt something odd. His right hand brushed against. A small folded piece of paper slipped there without him noticing. He opened it under the table. The handwriting was rough, the message short. She dies before sunrise. Stop it if you can. Elias's eyes flicked across the hall. The red-eyed figure he had noticed before was gone. The queen's voice broke his thoughts. You fought well today, human. But skill is nothing without loyalty. Elias tucked the note into his armor. Then you'll have both. For as long as I'm alive. Her golden eyes studied him, trying to read the meaning behind his words. But before she could reply, the heavy doors opened again. Not with ceremony this time, but with urgency. A guard stumbled in, armor dented, his breathing ragged. Your Majesty, there has been an attack in the lower halls. Several of your guards are dead. Gasps spread through the room. By who? The queen demanded. The guard hesitated. Unknown. They moved like shadows, fast, and they are headed here. Instantly, the queen's soldiers formed a wall at the entrance. The nobles began to panic, their voices rising in fear. Elias stood, scanning the exits, the balconies, every shadow in the hall. Something about the air felt wrong. It was too still, too cold. Then the lights flickered. A sound came from above, the faint creak of metal. Elias looked up. Dark shapes clung to the ceiling beams, moving silently. Down! He shouted. In. A heartbeat. 6 assassins dropped from above, blades glowing faint red. They moved fast, aiming straight for the queen. Elias was already moving. His sidearm cleared its holster, and the first assassin fell before his boots hit the floor. The second swung a blade at his neck. Elias ducked, grabbed the attacker's wrist, and snapped it before driving the alien to the ground. The queen's guards fought hard, but the assassins were skilled, weaving through the chaos like shadows. One slipped past the defense line, charging straight for the throne. Elias intercepted, catching the assassin's arm and using his momentum to throw him into a pillar. The alien's blade clattered away. Another attacker leapt from behind, but this time the queen herself moved, her crystal wings slicing through the air like knives, forcing the assassin to retreat. Blood was spilling across the polished black floor. The hall that had moments ago been filled with music and whispers was now filled with screams and the clash of steel. Elias felt a blade slice across his arm, but ignored the pain, focusing on the last 2 attackers. One made the mistake of hesitating, glancing at the queen. Elias took him down with a single shot. The final assassin turned to flee, but didn't make it to the door. Kravak's massive form stepped in the way, grabbing the attacker and crushing. His weapon with one hand, silence fell. The queen stepped down from her throne, her golden eyes scanning the bodies. Who sent them? She demanded. One of the wounded assassins coughed, spitting blood. House Virik sends their regards. Elias's jaw tightened. That was the same name the first assassin had spoken earlier. The queen looked at him. It seems my enemies had decided to be bold. Elias wiped his blade and holstered his gun. Then we'll have to be bolder. The queen's lips curved into that dangerous smile again. Careful, human. I might begin to think you enjoy this. Not enjoy, Elias said, but I don't walk away from a fight. As the guards dragged the bodies away and tended to the wounded, Elias felt the weight of the folded note still inside his armor. The attack tonight was just the beginning. Someone out there wasn't going to stop until the queen was dead. Now, he wasn't sure if they would come for him next, or use him as the weapon to end her. Shadows of treachery. The palace was quiet that night, too quiet. After the attack in the throne room, the queen had doubled the guard. Soldiers patrolled the glowing crystal corridors in pairs, weapons ready. But Elias knew the assassins had been only the beginning. The note in his armor still burned in his mind. She dies before sunrise. Elias had no proof, but he trusted his instincts. Whoever wrote that message knew more than they were telling. And if they were right, the next attack would be even deadlier. Moving through the dim halls, Elias kept to the shadows. He had memorized the palace layout earlier. The lower levels connected to old storage tunnels that were rarely guarded. If someone wanted to sneak in unseen, that was the way. He descended the spiral staircases, his boots silent against the smooth black stone. The air grew colder. The hum of the palace's energy systems faded at the bottom. He found what he was looking for, a long, narrow passage lit only by a few flickering lamps. Footprints in the dust showed recent movement. Elias followed them. The tunnel opened into a wide chamber filled with crates and old banners from past wars. And in the center stood a figure, tall, wrapped in a dark cloak, with a mask that covered their face. The eyes behind the mask glowed faint red, the same eyes he had seen watching him in the throne room. "You've been busy." "Human," the masked figure said, their voice smooth, calm, impressive, for someone so new to the queens. "Game." Elias kept his hand near his pistol. "You left me a note." "I gave you a chance," the figure replied. "And now I offer you a choice." They stepped closer. The queen is dangerous. She has conquered, destroyed, and betrayed every ally she's ever had. She will do the same to Earth when it suits her, but I can stop her. With your help. Elias's eyes narrowed. "So the assassins today, that was you?" "House Virik pays well," the figure said simply. "But this isn't about money. It's about survival. She is building something that will change the balance of the galaxy. If you stand with her, you will be her weapon. If you stand with me, we can kill her before she finishes it." Elias said nothing. His training told him to keep them talking. The figure tilted their head. "I've seen the way she looks at you. You think you're earning her trust. But in truth, she's studying you, measuring your weaknesses. When the time comes, she'll sacrifice you without a second thought." Elias's grip on his weapon tightened. "You have until dawn," the figure continued. "If you help me, the queen dies tonight, and you walk away alive. If you refuse, well, even a human as skilled as you can't stop what's coming." They stepped back into the shadows, their voice echoing. "Choose wisely, Elias Kane." The chamber was empty. Again, Elias stood still for a moment, listening to the faint hum of the palace far above. He didn't trust the queen completely. She was dangerous, and her motives were always hidden. But helping this masked assassin meant siding with a faction that had already filled the throne room with blood. He turned and made his way back up the tunnels. Every step felt heavier. The queen's life might depend on what he decided before sunrise. When he reached the upper halls, the air felt colder still. Guards stood at every corner. Their eyes followed him. Word of his late-night movements would spread quickly. As he neared the queen's private chambers, two of her elite crystal-armored guards blocked his path. "The queen wishes to see you," one of them said. Elias was led into a room lit by soft golden light. Queen Zytheria stood by a tall window, the stars of her empire stretching far beyond the glass. You were in the lower halls, she said without turning. Elias didn't answer. She turned to face him, her golden eyes sharp. I trust you? For now. But understand this, in my court, loyalty is tested every day. Before this night ends, you will have to decide exactly where yours lies. And for the first time since he met her, Elias realized the queen already knew someone would try to kill her before dawn. The seat beside the queen, first light of dawn crept through the crystal windows of the Zareth palace. The golden beams caught the edges of the queen's throne, making it glow as if it were carved from the morning sun itself. But the hall was not at peace. Elias stood beside the queen, his hand resting near his weapon. Every sense was alert. He knew the final strike was coming. The note, the masked figure's warning, and the queen's own words had all pointed to this moment. The court had gathered early. Nobles whispered to each other in low, worried tones. Guards stood at every entrance. Even Kravak was present, leaning against a pillar, his orange eyes watching the room like a hawk. The queen spoke softly, her gaze fixed on the gathered court. Today, we show them that fear is for the weak. They will not take what is mine. Before Elias could reply, it began. The sound came first, a faint hum in the air, rising fast. Then the windows shattered inward as black-armored assassins dropped from above, ropes cutting through the morning light. More burst through the great doors, weapons glowing red. The queen's guards rushed forward, but the attack was too fast. Elias drew his sidearm and fired, taking down 2 assassins before they reached the steps to the throne. Kravak roared, charging into the fray, swinging his massive blade like a storm. The queen stayed seated, her crystal wings slowly unfolding, catching the light in blinding flashes. She was waiting for them to come to her. One assassin broke through the fight, sprinting up the steps, twin daggers ready. Elias moved to intercept, but from the side, another attacker appeared, the masked figure from the tunnels. They moved, like a shadow, faster than anyone else. Their weapon, a thin, curved blade, was aimed straight for the queen's heart. Elias froze for half a second. Here it was. The choice. If he let the blade land, the queen would fall, and the masked figure's promise of walking away alive might hold true. He could escape this dangerous game, free of her, or he could stop them and bind himself to her dangerous world forever. The decision took less than a breath. Elias lunged. His shoulder slammed into the masked figure, knocking them off balance. The blade meant for the queen sliced across his own side instead. Pain flared, hot and sharp, but he didn't stop. The masked figure recovered quickly, striking again, but Elias blocked the blow, twisting the weapon from their hand. They hissed, stepping back. You've chosen, they spat. Yeah, Elias said, his voice low. I choose the seat I took. The fight between them was brutal. Quick punches, sharp counters, a clash of blade against blade. Finally, Elias caught the assassin's arm and slammed them against the base of the throne. A final strike to the mask shattered it, revealing a pale, scarred alien face twisted in rage. Before the attacker could recover, Kravak's blade came down, ending the threat. The rest of the assassins were either dead or fleeing. The throne room fell silent except for the sound of Elias's heavy breathing. Blood dripped from his side, staining the polished black floor. The queen rose from her throne. She stood over Elias, her golden eyes unreadable. Then, slowly, she extended her hand. Elias looked at it for a moment before taking it. She helped him to his feet. Before the entire court, she spoke. From this day forward, Elias King is my seat guardian. He is the first to claim this place and live. His word will carry the weight of my own. Gasps filled the room. Some nobles looked furious, others fearful. The queen stepped closer, her voice now low enough only he could hear. "You could have let me die. You didn't. Remember this. Loyalty is rewarded in my empire, but betrayal is not forgiven." Elias gave the faintest of nods. "I'll remember." As the court began to clear and the guards dragged the bodies away, Elias returned to the seat beside her. The seat of death no longer felt like a warning, Dot. It felt like a promise, and somewhere deep inside, Elias knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would remember the day a human sat beside the alien queen and changed her empire forever.